Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We will give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Courtney Brown. Courtney Brown is the co-founder and co-owner of Tetris Properties. Tetris Properties helps people earn excellent returns by investing in real estate, as well as helps manage all lengths of rentals through properties being acquired through buying real estate. In addition to starting Tetris Properties, Courtney has been a firefighter with the San Antonio Fire Department for the past 10 years. You can find Courtney by going to his website, tetrisproperties.com, or by emailing him at admin@tetrisproperties.com. Hello, Courtney. It's fantastic having you on the show.
Good morning, Olivia. How are you? Hey, everybody. I'm super excited being here. Thank you for having me.
I am super excited to have you, and let's dive in. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Courtney Brown?
So for me, success means being able to help the people that you want to help when they need to help without putting too much hardship on your own personal life and finances. And that help could be big or small. I guess it depends on what the help is at the time on if you want to gauge your success. But for me, for me to be successful, I need to be able to help my family and loved ones and friends and even strangers when they need help immediately without it even being a question, without it having any kind of hardship or anything on my family or myself. So that's really important to me.
I love that answer, and I think that really goes to the core of who you are, because being selfless sometimes can be the success, and not just for yourself, but makes such an impact on others. So I loved how you brought, it's not just about being able to help the people in your family and your friends and within that network of you, but also being able, without question, to help strangers and just doing the right thing, as you had said. And I want to dive into that a little bit. I want to start off with discussing your firefighting career. So you've been a firefighter now for a decade. What has made you decide to be a firefighter, and what has that journey been like?
So I'll start with the second part. Being a firefighter is awesome. Easiest job, not the easiest, the best job in the world for me, and for my capabilities and my mindset. When I signed up, what I learned once upon a time when I decided to start exercising my mind is that I was only doing good enough for myself. I had immediate family members that would sometimes need my help with certain things, and I wouldn't be able to help them fully right away. And then all the while, I would be doing things that my career allowed me to do, like by myself. And I really felt, I guess lonely, if you want to call it, at the same time. So when people need help, I couldn't help them like I wanted to help them. And then it was time for me to do something I wanted to do. I was usually going by myself. And then on top of that, I go see my family in other places in the country, and I just felt like I needed to be doing more, and I had the opportunity to create a great foundation to be able to do everything that needed to be done. So I realized I wasn't where I needed to be in life, and that although as great as this career is, I need to do something more with what it allots me in my life. So that's one reason I decided that firefighting has to be just the foundation to what we do.
And I love that. And I think it's important to understand what you're doing, what you're passionate about, and why you're doing it. And I think for you, you came to that realization is you love it, you have the passion for it, but there's more that you need to be doing. So that firefighting and those skills you've gotten are that foundation for you and will help you and always be a part of you, but it's about the growth. What has it been like being a firefighter and that moment of starting to transition into having that foundation and wanting to build something more? What was that realization like?
It was eye-opening, I have to admit. I'm not gonna lie, I felt some kind of guilt once you realize it. Like, 'cause I didn't realize it year one. I realized it year nine. Like I knew I was looking for something more before then. I saw a couple of my colleagues use or firefighter as a foundation to build on something else, and they do exactly what I want to do: help their families. From the outside looking in, at least that's what it looks like. I just know that's just something that I wanted to do too. I help people on their worst day, strangers, once every 3 days. Whatever my schedule was, or if I worked overtime. I just kind of feel bad not being able to help people I know the way they wanted to be helped. Just because they're not having an emergency doesn't mean people didn't need help.
And I think that's really important to take into consideration, just because, like you kind of said, they're not having an emergency doesn't mean someone doesn't need help. Just because it's a difference of life and death doesn't mean someone doesn't need help. But also, what I liked about what you just brought up, and a key word I think is important to also take into aspect there, is the fact of, from looking in, someone looks okay or seems like they're doing well. So, sometimes it's also being able to help people who from the outside look like they're doing okay, but inside they have other goals or they need help accomplishing something. Before we dive into Tetris Properties and dive into the wonderful things you're doing in that journey, for individuals who might want to become a firefighter or thinking about doing that in addition to something else or volunteering, what does it look like to be a firefighter and juggling that work-life balance and that schedule?
That's a really great question because it's not all what you see on the movies. The schedule looks good on paper, and if you know how to work the schedule and not let it work you, it can be good. For example, our schedule is 24 on, 48 off as a firefighter. 24 hours away from your family is every third day is a long time, adds up real fast. So you have to learn real fast to be really productive and make your time count off. Not necessarily with production, but with things that you want to do. Because once you go to work, unless they could come see you or somebody can run an errand, do something for you, you have to wait those 24 hours. And it's really hard to explain, but it takes a toll. A lot of relationships are hurt because of that within the fire department. So if you're in a relationship, it's a decision that has to be made by both people. And I 100% believe that. I guess it's probably like any other profession where they have to leave a lot. But really, really talk with your spouse about the schedule and really understand what it means for your spouse to be home for 24 hours, especially if you're the husband and your wife staying home for 24 hours with kids, or just realize also, like my schedule, you're either going to work the day before the holiday, or the day after. So that really eliminates travel plans that you may or may not used to have. But on the other side, you can handle the schedule. And that's about my only gripe is the schedule. If people don't realize what you get from the customers or patients is the gratitude you get is unparalleled. You really feel good saving people or helping people that actually need to be helped. And then you learn to feel good to help people that don't need to be helped, because not everybody wakes up to call 911 for no reason. So just know that what you see on TV, that happens. All the fires, every show. That's not a real thing. It's more EMS. It's really more relationships with people and how to treat people, be nice to people. And it's a lot of the little things that you do 95% of the time. And then that's mainly station life and EMS. Just be aware that there are parts of the job that aren't publicized and that really, really count towards decision making that I wasn't granted with, but I adapted. So that's my best advice.
I want to go into one other thing that you said. It's not necessarily like what you see on TV. So what does a shift typically look like for even the community who's unaware of, like you just said, the time, and what happens with how the schedules are built with the time you are away from your family. Those are things the community doesn't even think about, goes into these roles as first responders. So for you, what does a typical shift kind of look like? Are there a lot of fires or a lot of calls, or are there those downtimes?
So it depends on the area of town. I will speak from my station. With that said, I was a little bit at a little bit different station with a couple other disciplines, but nonetheless, your shifts for me, your shift starts the night before you go to work because you want to be on time and you want to be rested, right? But it's actually it's quite fun. You get there, you see if you're at a double station like I was, I'm seeing 19 of my friends. You see the 10 guys that are leaving, and then the 9 other guys that are coming. It's hey, what happened? Laughs, lots of laughs, lots of laughs. Check out your gear, check out your equipment, have a meeting, and then it's usually some form of workout, training. It's short because it's right before lunch. um, and if it's not short, we lunch during training or workout. And then usually in between calls, guys will have their personal projects, or you just shoot the breeze with each other, hang out, try things, try different techniques with different equipment that may or may not have come out because with the discipline, things change with the equipment. You try new stuff. But mostly we get the EMS calls. Your AM calls are usually the car wrecks within the rush hour traffic. And then during the day, you get your normal sick people. But the real stuff you see on TV, there's really no rhyme or reason. I guess you could say during the winter months, you may get a couple more fires because people are turning on space heaters and stuff. But it's hard to say when you're going to get a fire or not because it's really random and it's not that often, which is a good thing.
Yes, definitely say it's a good thing. Now I want to dive in to Tetris Properties.
Yes,
What skills, as we transition from your firefighting careers to deciding to go into Tetris Properties, what skills did you take from firefighting while building Tetris Properties to start off with?
the main one is, even though I don't like to, is being able to approach and talk to people. It becomes real easy to talk to people when you spend the last 10 years talking to people on their worst day, quote unquote. Um, and that wasn't my MO before. I get off shift. If you're my friend, I talk to you. Even my friends know it could be 2 months before you hear from me. but going into business, I knew I had to change that. And I realized that I have this, I guess, talent or ability or lack of fear to talk to people. I just have to know what to say. So that's another part of my job. I got real good at researching the right way and the right stuff. It kind of sounds weird, but we research a lot of stuff. We research equipment, techniques, other incidents across the country. And you learn that just because one people are doing things one way doesn't mean that that's the only way. So when we decided to dive into real estate, I knew that it had been done before by other people. And I knew that real estate was broad enough and flexible enough to work some way for my family and I just didn't know at the time when we first started, but that didn't stop me from starting. We took the leap of faith and molded as we went.
And I think that it's important to realize that, especially when you had another career that you're so passionate about, it's finding something you're going to be equally passionate about, being able to transition skills you have in the aspects you like, but also realizing there's still things to learn, but that it fits with what your goals are and your family's goals are. So when you decide to go into real estate, what was that initial process to get Tetris Properties off the ground like for you?
So the initial process was long. Before we even knew it was Tetris Properties, it was a lot of analysis paralysis, I have to admit. And I never did get the full I guess I did obviously get the confidence to take action, but it was a day where we pretty much found out about arbitrage and you know what? I'm going to try it. And I read a couple other things about taking action. So I was like, I'm going to try it tomorrow. And I went out to talk to apartment managers and apartment owners. It's a complete trial run just to see what kind of rebuttals I was going to get. And on my first stop, we got a yes for 2 units. So that was a blessing. And so now we're like, oh, we need to raise money now. And then we went on step by step after that. But another thing I brought from firefighting is that just because you don't know how to do the next step, knowing it has to get done is all you really need to know to get started on. Just knowing your heart you want to do it right and take that next step. It may be wrong, but that doesn't mean you're going in the wrong direction. It just means you learn what not to do right then and there. And I have no problem taking the next step. A lot of them don't work, but every now and then one of them does. And that's what business is all about.
And I think
especially real estate.
And I think that's great. And I think it's really important, and a really key takeaway for our listeners to understand is just because you don't necessarily know what the next step means or what the next 2 steps are going to be, that shouldn't stop you from taking the first step and working through it and trying it. Like you said, okay, I'm going to try. Let me see what it is like, what the rebuttals are, so then I can prepare myself and be prepared when I go in. And then you ended up doing such a great job. The first person said yes.
Absolutely. So the first person said yes, and the last 8 stops were no's. But we built our foundation of our company off those first 2 units. And another thing, I've learned a lot of skills with my hands. Because of my father, I've been mechanically inclined, but the fire department got me better with building on houses. I mean, we shore up falling houses. I get through doors. That's part of my main job, is riding on a truck. And just being able to save some of that money in the beginning, doing things myself, along with the time that I usually have off of my normal schedule, really helped as far as being a firefighter moving into real estate. Did help out. I can't sit here and lie and be like, oh, if I had a 9-to-5 job, I'd have did the same thing. But I would have did something. I think the first step is just realizing that there's something to do.
And I love that, is making the realization there is something to do and then figuring that out. So for you started this company, you're co-founder of Tetris Properties. What is it like working with someone else from the startup process to where you are now?
Oh, well, my someone else is the missus, and she's 100% supportive. So it's almost like the Lord put me here for a reason, and I had no other excuse, because she actually found the idea about arbitrage, and I ran with it, and she was like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do it. She's confident. I told her, this is how much money it's going to be. We're not going to be able to do X, Y, Z if this doesn't work. And at the time, X, Y, Z was Christmas, her birthday, and then Valentine's Day, because this was October.
You're like, so those holiday gifts might not come.
Pretty much. And didn't know we were starting in the slow season. We went with Airbnb with the arbitrages. But I asked enough people questions while taking action, ran into people who are subject matter experts in what I was trying to do. And I pretty much just told that person, look, if this is working for you, you're about to have a twin in the industry. Are you okay with that? And that's when I learned that that's what people in real estate do. They help you, and they want you to do the same thing they did if it's going to work for you. And they have no problem. That's the beautiful thing about people in real estate that are serious. They're all here to help everyone. And that's the whole reason I started, was to help other people. So I was happy to be here once I finally got going. And it's easy to keep going for me, because that aligns with our core values, is just helping people.
And I love that. And I love how you talk about other people. Now, yes, guys, I didn't know that Courtney's partner was his spouse. So I already knew that. But it's definitely something to talk about, because regardless of who you are, if it's a spouse, if it's a best friend, there's those relationships you have to balance, of the working with someone you're very close with and building something, and the struggles that go into the beginning aspects and those hard conversations, and being able to, at the end of the day, still be close with that person and not hinder your relationship. So how do you guys balance that?
Oh, it's really it's just communication and honesty. Um, Good or bad, we have no problem. I could tell on her face if something's wrong, and she could tell on my face if something's wrong. So there's no reason to not bring it up in the first place. And honestly, I hope she feels this way about me, but she helps me with all my problems. So it's kind of like an easy ticket out. Like, if I don't know what to do, I'll tell her about it, and she's like, "Well, let's figure it out." And we ask her parents and my parents, and we'll just stand out there where there's bigger pockets. It's actually what led us to bigger pockets, which led us to coaching, which led us to you. So just communication and openness. And you know what's funny? She doesn't even want all the openness with the business. She just likes to be in the background, there if I need her for support. Um, One thing I always wonder, like, why? Because I'm going to be honest, I make a pretty good living just firefighting, and it's a pretty hard. I understand that I'm in a special place with the amount of time I get off, plus the salary that I have. I'm just super grateful that I have a future wife like I have that understands that although we're in a very good spot now and we could take trips once a month, blah blah blah. She understands that I want to help people, that we want to help people, and we need to build something bigger. So we don't do any of those things that my job could allow us to do, not as often. And I love her for that, and I appreciate it.
Well, and I think that's amazing to be able to have a partner, like you said, that knows you, and communication is key. And that's no matter what you're doing, being able to communicate and being able, it's that emotional intelligence and knowing, especially if you're very close with someone, like you said, the facial reaction, she can look at you and know what you're thinking and the direction to go in. So even if you're in the moment of not knowing how to express that or say it, you have a partner in crime that can help you through that. And the other great thing that you brought up is that before you even started Tetris, you guys sat down and had a conversation about, hey, if we move forward with this is how we're, these things, if, depending on how it goes, we might not be able to do it. Let's have an agreement upon that now. I think it's so important to be open and transparent with where everything stands. So then it's, okay, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? It's, okay, we're building something better. Like you said, you're in a good spot. And to some people, it might be like, well, you've all these great things going for you. You don't need to be starting a business. But for you, it was the call to action. There's something bigger.
I've heard that plenty of times. Like, you better not quit the fire department. Like, well, why are you doing this? What happened to the fire department? Nothing happened to it. It just, like, do you remember last year when you were like, hey, can you help me? And I was like, oh, not right now. Like, those kind of moments I'm doing this. I don't say it fully, but you're right. People will tell you pretty much, why aren't you satisfied or be happy with what you got?
And
it's not about what I have.
Yeah, and sometimes, like you said, it's that bigger call to action, that bigger calling for yourself that, yes, you're doing great things, you're giving back now, but there's something more you can be doing, and you want to be doing that and leaving that bigger legacy. For you, so like you had said, you got into Tetris Properties during the slow season.
Yes,
so what was it like getting into Tetris and starting Tetris Properties when it was actually the slow season?
So the very, very beginnings, it wasn't that stressful because we didn't know it was the slow season. And then by the time I had read it was a slow season, I looked at what I thought were the slow season numbers. That's one thing I didn't know at the beginning. The listings you're looking at that are available on Airbnb are not the ones you want to comp, because those are the available ones. You want to comp the ones that aren't available, the ones that are actually getting booked. That was a mistake we made. And by the time it would have led to stress. Our co-host was such an amazing. Our co-host was such an amazing co-host. He was experienced already. He was introduced to us by a friend, and we swallowed our pride and did things that he said do. There were things we wanted in Airbnb that he was like, no, you don't need that. I'm like, are you sure? Everybody uses Alexa, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, you don't need that. This is what you want to do, X, Y, Z. I followed his advice, and sure enough, bookings were steady enough sorry, a bird just flew straight up to my window.
You are
I
fine.
thought he was coming in. But we followed his advice with no extra marketing. And these are all things I know now, or not writing down any operations or sales strategies. Things just kind of rolled. I think it was just another sign that we're heading in the right direction, because looking back, we were just an ad. We're not even an ad. We were just a listing on Airbnb. No additional marketing, no stars, no reviews, but yet people booked us. So sometimes you have to realize your blessings and take the signs, and that was one for us. Like, we don't know why at the moment, but we're getting booked, so and save our money, stick to the plan. And one thing I want to mention is that this mindset that I have was 9 years in the making. If people are having a hunch that they want to do something more, just act on it now. Don't do like I did. Watch two or three people do what you could have wanted to do. Get complacent, get comfortable, and next thing you know, 10 years is a long time to go by. I saw somebody start their journey in 2016, watch him go through his whole journey, retire from the fire department, and do exactly what I'm trying to do. And we were literally working together in 2016. So that, don't wait. Sorry to get off track on that.
No, I love that. And I love that added mention of, your mindset. It's not like you wake up one day and your mindset's totally different, or like
it took practice.
Yeah, there's this light bulb that goes off and is like, okay, today's the day. You're never going to necessarily have that. And I love how you added in there the fact that it took you 9 years to get this and train your mind. But, sometimes you can take the risk. You can say, you know what, yeah, it might take me longer, or, I'm not sure, but sometimes the risk is worth the possible reward, or at least the lesson learned you would have learned.
The lessons sometimes the lessons are worth more than the reward, because like coaching, those coaches, my coach Marcus has learned really hard lessons that he paid a price for. And fortunately for Marcus, he realized that he learned lessons that people are willing to pay to learn. Mm-hmm. So that could happen to anybody. Anybody could have already had learned lessons that somebody wants to know and not make the same mistakes. And that could be you just sitting there, And honestly, it could have been me too. But I was complacent. I was real comfortable. Like I told you, it's fun being a firefighter. But I wasn't happy. I just wasn't the happiest deep down. So I was doing a lot of stuff. I tell people I was really good at the rat race, because I was in a position where I could get anything I wanted. Maybe I had to wait 2 checks at the very most, or working overtime. I can go anywhere in the world, and I did. Travel the world. I got things for my son, my parents. Just when it came time to help people when it mattered the most, I couldn't help. That's just not cool, because it sucks.
I want to go into, you've brought up coaching a few times. Marcus, who you brought up, Marcus Ogden, is your coach right now and has helped you on this journey. What made you decide to get a coach, and what has that been like, and how has that played a role in your journey with Tetris?
It's funny. I have 2 coaches, and one coach led to Marcus, which was my first coach. And Marcus coaching led me back to the first guy who led me to Marcus. And the story is, I started going to meetups, and I ran into Steve, one of my coaches, and he's explaining why you need a coach. And out of all the things he said, he's like, just think about all the greats that have done things and have been great at it. They all have coaches. And of course, he named the sports figures. But then he started naming those sports figures coaches. Like, I didn't know Nick Saban had a coach. Nick Saban's the man. Like, who needs to coach him? And Bill Belichick has the coach. And of course, Michael Jordan had coach, Kobe Bryant had coach, Steve Jobs had a coach, and he went to other industries. Anybody that's ever done something great has had a coach. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but I like to do things. I like to be the best at what I do, or at least try to be the best. And if I'm not the best, I give major respect to whoever is better than me at that task. And I joke around, but deep down inside, like, you got me on this one. And that's life. But coaches, I realize that coaches will help me with the learning curve. And being 36 years old, my son's already 13. The missus, we have plans and goals that we want to meet. And I thought it would be like, if I don't do it, it only affected me. That's one thing. That's another thing. I'm super cheap and frugal. But I realized, like, me being cheap about this is, you realize it's going to affect more than just myself. Like, if I'm really trying to reach these goals and build this business to help the people I want, how could I sit here and cause these people to wait an extra 6, 7, 8, 9 years of learning that it would cost me when coaching can knock that down? So I took a leap of faith, and day one, honestly, coaching works. And it's just been a game changer. Marcus started coaching me on my lifestyle and my mindset. In the first couple calls, I was thinking, like, okay, like, this sucks. I already know how to be a hard worker, but I didn't realize I didn't realize Mark was teaching me how to be a good businessman and how to build a business. And I liked where it was going, and I wanted to go faster. So I got back to Steve. I had already signed up to go to a business summit with him in Vegas. So we went to Vegas. I went to Vegas knowing that, like, I don't know how, but I'm going to hire Steve as our coach. Steve was a little bit more expensive, and I really didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't even tell the missus at the time. I didn't tell her until we got there. Like, the second day, I was like, I lost sleep over it. At night, I got up with this big speech. I should have known she was going to be all for it. She listened to my reasons. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do it. Like, you sure? Because I got 30 minutes of talking, speech left. One of those scenarios. Still didn't sleep that night. Went the next day to talk to Steve about it, tell him what I wanted to do. It's probably going to be a year because I got to do the X, Y, Z. And then another blessing came. I was able to do it way sooner than I thought. And I got to keep that blessing confidential, but it was a blessing. And that blessing never would have shined its light if I wouldn't have walked up to Steve, let him know what I want to do, what I'm trying to do. Here's my plan. My plan was a year plan, and my year plan turned and got executed that same day. So.
And I think that's really important to keep in mind as well is, like you said, coaching can really be a game changer, and knowing sometimes that you need it, as well as having multiple coaches. Everyone specializes in something, and everyone can help you build and thrive and think about what your goals are, right? So Marcus is one of my very good friends. And he has been on the show. We have an episode with Marcus Ogden. I've been on his show, and he was the one who introduced us for you to potentially be on my show. So the community you can build within your coaching network, right? So being close with Marcus, but I also do coaching, and the referrals that we get back and forth, even within the coaching community, it's a very close community to understand, hey, there's something I do, like, for example, helping with resumes, helping you learn to network, helping you foster continuous education to grow your career. Mine is more in the coaching aspect, growing personally and professionally to meet those goals. There's other individuals, great like Marcus, who do a similar thing, but just because we do similar things doesn't mean you can't work together. And I think that transcends across any industry as well.
I agree definitely. Like, having multiple coaches, and they collaborate with each other. Like I said, Marcus is Marcus. He helps with the business, and he gets us, I should say, out there. He helps us get us out there. I didn't even know podcast interviews and introductions was a thing. Like, up until like 2 months ago. Um, and here it is working, doing what it's supposed to do. My goal is to build the business, and that comes with getting exposure, getting getting on the podcast, getting the interviews. And I didn't know how to do that. If I'd have got to the step where I know I needed to get on podcasts, I would have took another 6 months getting myself ready to be on podcasts. When we have a coach, he's like, "Here's your podcast interview. You're going to email her today or him today." And then, and then you email back. I was like, "Oh no, Marcus, you email back. Like, this is real." It's like, what do I say? He's like, just have a conversation. And sure enough, it's exactly what he coached me, what it would be like, exactly what you coached me, this would be like. But I don't know what to tell people. If you have to invest in yourself, and coaching is one of the best way. If you don't believe me, just read up on coaching, different coaches, people who have coaches, and you'll even find in different people who are in whatever field you're going to, the gurus. I guarantee you they have coaches.
Mm-hmm.
The people that shot straight to the top, if they're still there, it's because they have a coach to maintain it. I I I'm willing to bet they had a coach at some time, and they know somebody who's a coach because it just I don't see how you can. I don't see how it happens. It takes a lot of luck without a coach.
Yeah.
Because trust me, I was out there looking. I stay up 6 in the morning, studying, looking, reading audiobooks or listening to audiobooks, reading books. You get stuff here and there. You create a plan. You build confidence, but at a much, much, much slower pace.
And I think that's important. Coaching helps elevate yourself. Like you said, all the greats have coaches. So be part of the greats. Make your move. Make the decision. It can only help you in the long run. Courtney, what is your goal and what does Tetris Properties truly provide today and what will they be providing moving forward?
Oh, that's a great question. So today I'm gonna work it backwards. Our ultimate goal, and this is my ultimate vision, is to somehow, some way, not somehow. I know I have an exact plan. I won't fill up your podcast interview with that, but we have a plan to help new people or even beginner investors go from what we call A to Z in real estate, their first real estate investment process. And to me, that includes educating yourself, building your mindset, and then getting educated on the different types of real estate that are out there. For example, industrial real estate. I didn't know anything about industrial real estate, but I would like to get that person educated on all the different options. And depending on where that person's from, what network they live in, we would steer them towards a certain strategy. And then they'll come up with that plan based off the education they learn from us. And if we do our job right, we'll be very confident and they'll go out and pick their first project. And where the difference between our company is we will fund that first project because that's a lot of stopping points for people that get interested in real estate. And I've seen some good people that would be great in business or even just could use the real security you can get from real estate owning more than one home, or that they let it go because honestly they do work a lot, or maybe their life's filled up too much now where they can't go to the meetups, or they need somebody to actually just almost like give them a handout. But we have to do it in a way that it's not going to be a handout. We're going to make a way to fit into their schedule and let them know that now that you know what to do, you don't have to go searching for private money or hard money loans or spend the next year saving. Since you were serious about the process, you've checked all the boxes. Here's your funding. We'll work a deal between the equity and asset at the end, but at the end of the day, that customer is going to have either a home or a lot of equity to go do it again. And I feel like that'd be a good way to get the ball rolling for new investors, a new, more easier way for serious investors in the beginning.
And I love what your goal is and what you're trying to do. Like you said, and your mantra in life is being able to help others and pay it forward. And that really shows with the company you've started with Tetris and how it differentiates in the aspect of you're going to help someone build all the tools, you'll help them throughout the process, but then they'll also get their funding. So you're helping them really build their empire as well and grow in the way that is successful for them and for your company and just everyone around. Courtney, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
The best way to get in touch with us is at our website, Tetris Properties, Tetris properties.com. And there you can reach us on the social medias or reach out to us directly. And I also want to say that I forgot to answer the second part of your question, what we do now. I'm sorry. Well, we're going to build up, in order for us to build up to be able to provide that lending. What we do now is we connect private money lenders with homes, and being in a unique position ourselves, we afford all or most of the, I guess, what am I going to call it? The cash flow is what it really is, but it's not because of the way we set it up. But most of it goes to our lenders. And we always offer at least double-digit returns because we understand that we have to build this foundation. So we're just going to live off my salary, spend the next 10 years reinvesting into the business. And in a couple of years, we'll be at that second level where we can take people from A to Z based off the network and the portfolio we build in our phase one.
And I think that's really important, is understanding what your phase one is and understanding what your phase two is and what that growth will look like in your life cycle of the company as well and what you're trying to do. So thank you, Courtney, and thank you. Why don't you reiterate one more time how people can reach out to you if they want to connect?
Yes, ma'am. Easiest way is on our website, Tetris Properties, Tetris properties.com. And from there, you can reach our social medias, which is also Tetris Properties across the board.
Awesome. Thank you, Courtney, for all of your insight today.
Thank you, Olivia. I really appreciate it. I had fun.
I had a great time with you, and I think there were a lot of key takeaways. A few of your key takeaways that I really enjoyed that I think I want to reiterate in today's conversation are: work your schedule. Don't have your schedule work you. No matter what you're doing, right, figure out how to optimize it. Don't have your schedule overload you. And that could look differently to everyone, but understanding what that is for you and building that to make your schedule work for you, as well as ask the questions to the people who can answer them and guide you. It's knowing the right questions to ask, as well as equally important to know who to ask those right questions to. And lastly, I think a very key takeaway is the fact that you have to have your growth, your coaching, know your community that surrounds you that will build you so that you can then build others up and hit your goals in life. This was a great episode. That sums it up. Yeah, it does. And you had so many key takeaways that were so great, but those were our ones that summed up today's conversation. This was a great conversation with our top-notch guest, Courtney Brown. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.